And I am going, first of all, to area code 303. I think it's Algo, but I could be wrong. Welcome to the show. Who am I talking to, man?
You are talking to Algorithm, my friend Kev Baker.
Oh, how are you doing, Algo?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm great, man. I'm great. Either I'm doing really
You
good
sound good.
or I've finally cracked under the pressure. The lockdown got to me, man. That's it. I've just gone stir crazy. But no, how are you holding up? How's things where you are?
Things are starting to open up here. People are starting to catch a clue, maybe. A lot more mask wearing, but a lot fewer restrictions. So we'll see how it goes. But I wanted to call in and I wanted to thank you for one, because in my experience, I have never really had anything woo happen to me like you cover on your show. And it's a great place for me to not only learn about these things, but I can kind of have my radar on when I'm out and about, whether it's the Rocky Mountains, because I'm in Colorado, or the Great Sand Dunes. I think the only thing I could ever say that was even close to it was in the Taos Pueblo in New Mexico, where it felt like death. It was the most overwhelming internal feeling I'd ever had from going to a physical place. But other than that, there's no Wooville in my world other than your show, which is why I'm so glad that you do it and you fight to do it, and I appreciate that. So that was why I wanted to call and talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Algo. And I suspect it might not have happened yet, but you know how when sometimes you hear about one of your friends gets a new car, and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, even though you've never seen it before, and it's like, wow. I mean, it's everywhere now, and I think the woo, and I think the universe is kind of like that. I think where we pay attention to, and I don't mean to disturb you or anyone else out there, but I think if you listen to this kind of show, if you're interested in these kind of topics, it might not have happened to you yet, but I think you attract a higher potential for something woo happening to you. Does that make sense, Algo?
Absolutely, which is why I try to continue to participate and join you, because I think it would be so fun to experience that.
What do you
I
make
don't
of
have fear about it. I think it'd just be fun.
yeah, what do you make of that
Go
whole
ahead.
kind of time slip thing that we were hearing about in some of those stories there? It feels like you've maybe been away 10 or 15 minutes, only when you get back to people you're with, they're all looking at each other. Sometimes they've been looking for you, and you come to discover you've maybe been gone 4 or 5 hours. I mean, what happens in your mind there? Because listen, none of us know exactly. So, what do you think's going on?
I would say it's completely 100% believable, only because if I'm working on a welding project or I'm doing something that requires all of my intense focus, the time will slip by in ways that I can't account for.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that's happened to
absolutely.
you, and yeah.
It happens from time to time
So,
when we're doing the show here, Algo. Myself and Whistles, sometimes we used to look at each other at the end of a broadcast and we would think, right, hang on, something really weird's happened there. And it was almost as if it had condensed down to, I mean, when we used to do the hour-long show, it was quick, it was, rapid fire. And sometimes when we done the 2 hour show, though, it felt even quicker. And yet you looked back at all the information, all the stories we had crammed in. And I get it. I definitely get that we ourselves, without moving out of time, we can change how we perceive it. But then there's that whole weird thing where it's almost the step outside of time and you experience it differently. Perhaps maybe your memories, there's a bit of amnesia goes on. Maybe some things you don't want to remember when you've been to these other dimensions. It's something definitely very weird. Whether science can ever explain it fully, whether they would even try, Algo, I think that's where the Kev Baker show steps in. We'll definitely talk about it. We can discuss it. Whether we get to the root of it, I don't really know, because as we have discovered, rabbit holes, they don't come to a fine point and an end. In fact, they open up deeper and deeper the further you go, right?
Absolutely. So God bless you, brother. Thank you for the show. Thank you for your work, and I will keep. You'll see me around here.
Oh, Algo, thank you just for being you. And everyone in your family, tell them the Kev Baker Show, and my family is asking after them, okay?
I will. Yours as well, friend.
No problem, brother, no problem. Awesome. So now then, we're going to Westport, and it's area code 812. Welcome to the Kev Baker Show. Who am I talking to?
Well, let's see if you recognize the accent from the other day. You actually said you liked my accent better.
It's Steve.
It's me.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Very, very good.
So what?
Got a couple of comments on what you've been talking about.
Yeah,
too.
well, before we get to that, I mean, what do you make of the whole when we recorded the show for one of the first times in my memory? It all went horribly wrong and weird.
I was telling Jen about that. She had stepped out during that time. I was trying to get her to come back in to the room here. But she reminded me of the time we, as I had mentioned, we used to do a talk show, a podcast years ago. And we were talking to a psychic medium. And at the end of the show, after we had gone off the air, where you still talk for a minute or two, the stuff was still running. I hadn't turned off the recording equipment. And we were talking about some cemetery. I mean, this guy was in California. He knew some cemetery here in Indiana we were going to. And he said there was someone in the cemetery that had deceased that wanted our attention, etc. And, I mean, blew our minds, and we hung up. We saved the interview. That part was gone.
Whoa.
Out of the interview. I mean, the rest of it was there. Thank goodness the show we had just recorded was there. But that portion that we did afterwards that I never turned off was gone.
Oh, brother.
Because I really wanted that, because I thought that was important to use. I was going to feed that in, mix it into the show, and it was just gone. So we were talking a lot about evil. We were talking with Bill and everything else, Bill Bean. So I've seen a lot of very strange things take place with evil, when evil is involved. And we've been calling it out. We've been calling it out a lot now with the books and on radio and podcasts and like your show. And I think it's its way of letting you know it's there and it's paying attention. I mean, I can build a computer from scratch. I've never heard what you said before.
No.
It just
and
doesn't make any sense.
Steve, I'm somebody, the audience, I mean, anyone that's listened to the show for some time, I'm not the kind of guy who sits there and goes, I'm getting interfered with by the alphabet agencies, or
right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not that kind of dude. I the game I play. And for something weird like that to happen, and Bill is my witness because I showed him the file. And Bill isn't as tech savvy as we are. He didn't quite get what I was meaning. In fact, he was quite concerned I might have a virus on my computer. But no, I was explaining it was all something at my end that just went corrupted horribly wrong for the first time ever on something that's never glitched that way. There's no reason it should. It takes up the whole hard drive. I've no idea. I was at a loss, Steve, and that's why when I seen you in the chat room tonight, and I knew I was getting into these topics, I thought, that's perfect. I'll bring it up. But that's really weird, right?
Is it? Yeah, it's extremely weird. I mean, I've been designing websites for years. I've been dealing with videos. I make videos. I've never had that ever happen. I mean, come on, that's almost like 100 times the file size.
Yeah, I know.
If not more.
Yep.
I mean,
it's preposterous.
Almost
I mean,
impossible.
It doesn't make sense. Even if I was to record that in a 8K file format, which I didn't, it was just an MP4, bog standard. And
right.
even then, there's no way that amount of file size would have been used,
Not in a 2-hour thing.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Now, you were talking a moment ago about how you're calling out evil. What kind of responses are you getting?
Well, we're starting to hear a lot going on around the country. And that almost leads into what you were talking about here, about people starting with the, quarantine,
Yeah.
people hearing and experiencing things. And I've been saying this for years that, our phone calls to our group picks up in wintertime when people start to come inside. During the summer, they're outside, windows open, hanging out on their front porch, on their decks. They're enjoying the outside. It's when winter hits and they're inside their home. Now they start to see everything that's going on. But there's something more going on right now. I've yet to be able to put my finger on it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Bill about it. What else is going on? How come when the really good paranormal investigators want to leave the field, why do they want to get out? And if you talk to them, they're going to tell you things start really going crazy in their personal lives. Things start to happen to their family, to their kids, to their pets. And once or twice you say it's coincidence. The fifth, the sixth time, it's like, bless me, Father.
we don't do coincidence on here. And listen,
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
well,
there's stuff that me and Bill.
I'm a good pessimist.
Yeah, there's stuff that me and Bill talk about, and I would never betray his confidence, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But he's mentioned some of the stuff that happens around him on air. And obviously I know about more of it off air that he hasn't spoke about and things. But yeah, there's one example. You could throw Bill into the bracket of paranormal, researcher, investigator. I know he's a whole lot more as well, but there's somebody that's definitely experiencing, well, let's just call it outside interference. That covers a wide gambit of things, because Bill himself admits he doesn't know whether it's coming from the physical realm, the spiritual realm. And in your experience then, Stephen, I'll keep you to the break, and then I'll get to Kev, and I'll get to DJ Caveman after the break. But, I mean, you yourself, I don't know if you want to share anything, but in your life, have you ever felt any weirdness where you thought, whoa?
There was the one thing that comes to mind, and we were talking about this after we were on the air that night. We get a lot of phone calls from people that are having some really bad things happening in their home. We had a phone call from this woman north in Indianapolis, who was up northern part of the state. And the daughter they moved into this house. The bedroom was painted all black that the daughter moved into. And now all of a sudden the straight A student started acting very, very strange. And things were changing. She was doing things that she normally did not do before she moved there. And they really needed our help. And they had called, and Jen was on the phone with them. Every time Jen was on the phone with them, I got this really uneasy feeling. I'm sorry, really bad feeling. And I was coming up from one of her rooms in the house, and there's 2 steps up, and we had a little baby gate up to keep the dogs out from where the cat's litter boxes were for obvious reasons. And I was stepping over the gate while she was on the phone. Something lifted my leg up, took me up about 2 feet off the floor, and flipped me forward flat onto my face. Now, this wasn't tripping because I didn't trip. This thing lifted my leg and pushed me forward.
Yeah, you can't trip up the way.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I smashed right onto my face. And I was laying there on the floor, and she came back, and she's like, "You look at home, Steve fell." To the woman on the phone, I was like, "Hang up." She's like, "Why?" I was like, "Hang up. Tell her you call her back." She's like, "Okay." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Something threw me onto the floor while you were talking to this woman." So it got to the point where when she would call her back, I would leave the home because it knew that we were going to come if they wanted us up there, and it was coming after me already.
Whoa.
and I wasn't even there yet, and it was already starting to try to attack me. All of a sudden, after 2 days of talking to this woman, she vanished. The phone number was disconnected, everything. Straight down the line, and we never heard from her again. So I question, was it even a real story, someone contacting us? Or was this just a way of evil trying to warn us for some reason? And I'm sorry, like I told you on the show, I don't get scared by it. I'm sorry, my faith has me strong enough not to be scared. So something out there is happening. All these people are home. If you look at from the devil's point of view and, evil's point of view, we got you. You're stuck inside your home.
Yep. Oh,
okay,
man.
Now we can start messing with you.
Myself and Bill,
Okay,
we've spoke for some time about how there is a rising kind of evil, and the spiritual cannot be separated from the physical. That is something I've learned during the course of the shows I've done, and there really is a spiritual war that at this time it seems like it's pervading into our realm more and more and more. And Steve, I really hope I can get you or Jen back on. I know Jen's got a book coming out. I'll send you some dates or something after the show on Facebook, and I'd love to get you on. We'll talk some more about this stuff, and hopefully this time.
Right, and I want other people to have a chance to talk to you today.
No problem, brother.
What I wanted you to know too was the realm stuff that you're talking about. There's been a thinning of the veils for a while between the realms, and it's happening right now.
Final segment of today's Kev Baker show, and the callers so far, wow. I really want to thank all of you. These are so much more important to me in particular, personally, the network, than you probably appreciate. Honestly, sometimes, I wonder what I even done to deserve getting a show like this. And I know people will say, well, Kev, you've done the 1,300 episodes or so, but I don't know, we like to laugh and joke and we call it the number one abnormal show. And it is the number one abnormal show. And that's what makes it great. And tonight I've had so much fun getting into the topics that I really, really enjoy. And the callers just raise the bar completely. But again, I want to thank all of you, because for me, you're my focal point. And when you're like stuck in the house, as we're talking about here, and me under the shielding because of the lung problems and things, and don't go into that, but I could probably quite easily lose my mind, honestly. But this gives me something to concentrate on. It's something I really enjoy, and I've forged friendships and relationships with people I would never have come into contact with, and all of it an enriching experience for me. And it's helped me grow along the way into who I am today, and I'm far from perfect. My oh my. Sometimes I cringe sharing airtime with Bill, my good friend, because he is, when I compare myself to Bill, he says he's not perfect, and well, if Bill Bean ain't perfect, dang, I'm at the other end of the spectrum. But I'd like to think that thanks to all of you out there, that's what's kept me going. We've had bumps along the way, and we still keep going. We keep coming back. We keep going to the trough, and we keep finding more stuff to talk about. And even when I don't have anything to talk about, which isn't very often, let's face it, right? What podcaster's ever short of something to say? But you people out there, next level. And I could wax lyrical about you all night long. But big thank you to Steve for phoning in as well. And that's so important, no matter what your belief system is, that you appreciate that these other realms that we're talking about, the many worlds I often refer to, the dimensions that we sometimes call them, they are coming together. And there really is very much a spiritual battle. Even if you're the least spiritual person in the world, you have to have an appreciation for the fact that there's so much more going on. on multiple levels and levels that we can't even begin to imagine. And it all seems to be coming here and happening all at once right at this time. And right when all of this is going on. We don't do coincidences on KBS. So make of that what you will. So let me go now to somebody that I can guarantee will again uh, maintain the high standard of today's callers. It's somebody I love. It's somebody all of you love. And it's Kevin Nacy, a man that goes by many names. But what a rare, rare individual indeed. Kev, my brother from another mother, welcome to the show.
If I may contradict you only in a humble and loving manner, a brother from the same Mother Earth, however, I do believe you are the miraculous perfection of the unique individual entity. There is no other Kevin Baker, and so you are the ultimate perfection. However, if we do any discernment on our words and our actions that we have experienced, then we can have some wonderful discussions. And with a bit of the mind trip, we'll get into the time slip where nothing will ever seem the same, if I may.
You're a wizard when it comes to stringing the words together, Kevin. You really are. I could listen to you kind of rhyming off and being poetic all night long. I know when you call in, my mum too, she's really taken by you. She's not asked about many people who call in, but you're one person she's really kind of resonated with. And what is it you've got on your mind tonight, or more importantly, what is it you want to share with the world? What can we learn from Kevin today?
Well, we can learn what a hypocrite I am, and also the stupidest man that I know. But I continue to try to find knowledge where I can find it, and hopefully it's the truth. But I wanted to share with you a time slip that I've had where it involved my elder, what we call a Niowe. And this is the gentleman that gave me my Anishinaabe name. And he passed on. And we and my partner at the time were at home, and we were going to go to his funeral, which was in Battle Lake, Minnesota. And we were roughly about 3.5 hours away from Battle Lake from where our location was. I set the alarm clock for 6 o'clock in the morning, and we had to be out by 7 to get there by 11. And my partner at the time had a challenge with, in her sleep or drowsily, shutting off the alarm without getting up. I, for some reason, wake up at 8 o'clock. And I wake up and well, I don't jump out of bed because I am in a wheelchair. I wake up distraught with knowing what time it is, and I wake up my partner and trying to rush her and getting things together so we can get out and try to at least get there by the ending where they do the feast after we send somebody off. And so we hit the road, and all of a sudden in the travel, it seemed, we were speeding a little bit, but not a lot because it's kind of twisty roads on the way to this area we're going to up in the woods. And all of a sudden we show up there, and people are arriving at the same time we're arriving. And lo and behold, we get there, and we're there on time. And there is no way that we would have had to have gone 100 miles an hour to get there from the time that we left my domicile to get to my Niowe's funeral. But we got there on time with about 10 minutes to spare. And I cannot to this day explain how it occurred, but it's one of those things like Algorithm, where he said he's not experienced any of the woo, where I'm sitting there laughing as I listen to him, because I would gladly sometimes exchange some of the experiences that I've
Well,
had.
well, Kev, I mean, you're a deep thinker. What do you put it down to? I'll tell you what I think off the bat. I think either because past, present, and future, everything that is, was, and will be, it's all out there. You were always meant to be, or you always did go to that funeral. So, despite whatever was put in your obstacle, or whatever obstacle was put in your path here, that event would always come to fruition. And that time glitch just ensured that you were somewhere that you had always been and always had attended, right?
Well, I agree with that statement and the fact that time is the ultimate illusion of the powers that should not be, and it's a horrific cell that we're caught up in. And I believe that we can manipulate fields and perform magic with a K, and not just prestidigitation or sleight of hand, but through the courses of our experience currently, the powers that should not be, it is in their best interest to make sure that we do not maintain the miraculousness of our entities. Because if we knew of that miraculousness, we would not be letting them be in charge as they are. And so if we, and it's that proverbial kumbaya where we could all possibly find that inner strength within love without fear to recognize our miraculousness. But how do we do that? And maybe it might be something like what we're going through today, or the pandemic, or maybe we do need an asteroid that comes by close enough that we can witness it, and that it's close enough that it doesn't cause detrimental chaos to the moon or to the earth or its tilt. But it's enough for us to recognize that every moment when an asteroid goes by, that was a moment where we could no longer exist. So in the blink of an eye, this precious existence of life can be snuffed out. And so when we recognize that miraculousness and we live our life to live our life and not live our life to death, because whether it's a reward or it's the next phase, it's inevitable. And so we need to, and I want to, save the universe in that self-realization of the perfection or the miraculousness of each and every one of us.
Ah, brother, I'm telling you, it's great to listen to you. It truly, truly is. Now, let me ask you then, because there's been a lot of talk of comets and asteroids and things like that lately. What do you make of all the activity in the heavens right now? Do you think it's significant?
I have for a long time been talking about Nibiru or Planet X or the Blue Kachina or the Red Dragon or Wormwood or Revelation, many, many names, semantics.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, it's been proven through archaeological finds that there has been impacts that occurred. My wish is that as we, the humans, want to save endangered species and save our own planet and stuff, I wish that the extraterrestrial entities have that same kind of empathy or compassion to where they're saying, hey, these humans, they don't deserve another wiping of the slate. Let's kind of push these comments to the left or to the right. Or maybe with Space Force, we're getting involved with the starfighter, the last starfighter, and the threats that are coming are like the asteroid games or Missile Command, those old video games where we are going along with the entities from beyond our planet and helping redirect or even destroy these immediate or potential wipeouts, and that would be great. That we have evolved enough as a species to be allowed to be part of the Galactic Council, because I do believe that on every single planet we have humans there that are living in biospheres, because we are developed, we have evolved to only live here on Earth. So we need the exact electromagnetic conditions on Earth to survive anywhere else. And that could only be attained through biospheres. And I do absolutely believe that there's bases on the moon, bases on Mars, and every other planet, and possibly satellite of those planets of our cousins.
Nice, nice. I think there's humans out there as well. I share that with you, Kev. I must admit. I think the Space Force. Part of me wants to laugh because they probably had a Space Force for some time. I want to thank you for calling in today. We've got another couple of callers I need to get to, but it's always great to hear from you, brother. It always is.
May I plug something real quick?
Of course you can.
Well, if people enjoy me babbling on and babble on, I do them somewhat once a week or twice a week on my fake book account, and it's just Kevin Richard Shores, the Megaphone Man, and hit me up there. I think you can just listen to them as I put music in on it, and then I just kind of partake in the things that I partake with, and I share, and it's called Babbling On and Babylon. And I think there's some of them on my YouTube page too, if I may digress, the Megaphone Man YouTube. But thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. I respect you. And I love you. Absolutely, Homo sapien.
Right back at you, Kev. I'm telling you. Always great to hear from you, man. Be sure call in again. Now then, I need to move on now to our next caller. And it is DJ Caveman. How you doing, bro?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. And are you impressed? I remembered this time.
I was impressed. I was like,
See?
I wondered if you had like right-clicked me and put a name on my number or something. You just remembered my number. That's pretty good.
Telling you, dude, I've got it all. It's all going on in here. Talk to me, man. What's going on in the land of DJ Caveman?
Well, I was just thinking about tonight's show, and another good one as usual. And you know, this all hit me at a very early age. My first encounter with things that are weird when I was probably 5 years old or so. I wasn't going to school yet, so somewhere in there. But I was having out-of-body experiences. And I didn't know the difference. I thought I was just flying around like Superman that night. And parents thought I was a little bit crazy, or mom did. And until one night, I was out flying around, and my grandfather, who had passed on, was a musician in the USO back in World War II. My grandmother had some involvement with it as well, but he had musical stuff, instruments all over the place. And at one time, you know, we had this really old, you know, where they go almost to the ceiling, the chest, and, you know, they keep the plates, and, you know, back when cabinets were not all that helpful, and you had other stuff besides. You got to keep the family heirlooms in there, and so I was out flying around and saw a couple of musical instrument cases. I didn't know what they were, but I could tell that they were instrument cases. So the next morning for breakfast, I was like, there's musical instrument cases on top of that chest over there, and they're like looking at me crazy because it's like 7 feet tall, and they're like, "There's no way." I had a little ledge on it, and it's like, well, just as a kid, 5-year-old, oh no, they're up there, they're up there, and so finally I bugged them enough to get on a step stool and go up and look, and sure enough, there was a clarinet case and a saxophone case. Both had his old instruments in it, and so from there, I've had other experiences as well, but I didn't. That's where I kind of started to understand that there's two separate things going on. I wasn't actually out flying around. I was just or physically, and so I began to look at things differently, even at such an early age. And from there, all my life, I've been able to tell when the phone's going to ring and who it is. I'm not so good with it anymore. I hit it with my mom today. She, about 30 seconds to a minute before she called, I started looking at my phone and like, I think Mom's going to call. And 30 seconds to a minute later, she called. But I can't hit, bill collectors or your car. Your car
DJ,
warranty is run out.
This is weird, right? Because I've never had that out of body thing. My mum, when I was young, I remember she used to be able to astral travel, but she used to get scared, and it was at a time before the internet. You can go and check out what people told you, their experiences, things like that. And she would talk about getting as far as maybe the gate at the garden, but she would almost be too scared, almost terrified to go any further in case she couldn't get back. And it's something that's never happened to me. But
in my 20s,
I'll just finish quickly.
I
started
getting freaked.
Yeah, I'll just tell you real quickly. Yeah. I mean, that bit at the end, though, when you said there how you used to be able to tell when the phone was going to ring, things like that, I found in recent times I've developed a trait that's similar. I mean, I had a profound kind of moment with Nancy that I speak about a lot. She's sometimes in the chat, and she'd said to me, Kev, you really need to watch this.
Yeah,
and, yeah, and just as she was saying it, I had this overwhelming kind of thing, and I typed it into the chat. I said, and I put a question mark after it, and she's like, how did you even know that? And I had no idea how I know it, but I've done it a couple of times. I can't control it. It just happens. It's the weirdest thing, but it sounds like what you're talking about there.
Yeah, you just look over at the phone. You just get like radar goes off or something, and you look over at the phone, and it's like it's gonna ring, and then 30 seconds later it rings, and off you go. But like I said, as far as it's only with people I know. I don't know when it's gonna ring. If I'm looking for a job and it's a job interviewer, or it's a bill collector, or if it's a call, a solicitation call. I can't tell those, but when somebody I know is about to call me, I usually know. I usually just kind of glance at the phone or just kind of wonder. And
do you know who the freakiest person that this is? And she won't mind me saying it's freaky because I say it in the most affectionate, loving way. It's Nano Girl. I would be at work years ago, and I'd be walking around, and maybe it was like a bill to pay, or maybe there was something going on, and I'd be just having one of those write down day, and it would always be when I was right down, and used to spend a lot of time in that job walking about myself and plenty of time to feel sorry for myself. But Nano used to know exactly when to message and just what to message, and she would even message at times, are you feeling all right? Because I'm picking up on something here. I burst out laughing at one point because I'm like, wow. It's almost like she's an antenna. So more and more people, there are people out there. I totally appreciate what you're talking about here, brother. Totally.
Yeah, there's been some other things too that aren't messaging here. We're running out of time, and you got one more caller to get to.
I
So I
do.
might as well.
I do.
I've said my.
On you go, brother. On you go. You
What's
finish
that?
up. You wrap up, and I'll go to our next caller real quickly.
Yep. No, I'm finished. Go ahead to the next caller.
DJ, phone me again, man. Love hearing from you, and thanks for sharing that. Really, really, that was really interesting, man.
All right, thanks.
Right, catch you later, DJ.
Great show.